Here's Prescott. Just throws it deep as far as his arm can take him. He caught it! Micah Parsons on the move. Micah Parsons is in! Welcome to the big show, Tony Pollard. Oh, going deep. It is intercepted.
But I'm not going to say a word, but I will say one thing right now.
Prescott, touchdown. Good protection, and the pass wide open. Touchdown, Lamb.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today, and we finally know the 53-man roster for the 2023 Dallas Cowboys, which is exciting because now, with this out of the way, we are full steam ahead to the regular season opener versus the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football, which is great. So we're going to talk about who made the team, who didn't make the cut, my thoughts. We're going to get through all of that in today's video. Now, before we get started, if you guys could do me a favor, please hit the like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. It shows support and it helps fight against the YouTube algorithm, so that'd be greatly appreciated. Next, subscribe if you're new and hit that notification bell. Over 92% of you guys watching are not subscribed, so if you want to enjoy the upcoming content for the Dallas Cowboys season, by all means, please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this by each position group, cover the entire 53-man roster, look at who didn't make it at each position group, and just go through my overall thoughts. You guys can follow along. We're going to do QBs first, through the offense, then we're going to go to the defense, and then special teams. So let's go ahead and get started. So you start with the quarterbacks. You have Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, Trey Lance. And of course, Will Grier was already notified that he was going to be released, so we kind of already knew how things were progressing, and we know who QB1 is. It's Dak. We know that Cooper Rush is QB2, and really it was going to take a Herculean effort from Will Grier to knock Cooper Rush off because the coaching staff really likes him. However, what I will say is I felt like with Will Grier, you have a higher ceiling than Cooper Rush. The problem is Will Grier's floor is a lot lower than Cooper Rush's. This is where you think, okay, you can just go with two QBs and call it a day. However, the Cowboys made the trade to acquire Trey Lance. And with getting Trey Lance, you now have to dedicate an extra roster spot to a QB3, who you're hoping is becoming your QB2 down the road. So right now, you're dedicating Trey Lance for this year to develop, unless something drastic happens where he needs to suit up to be the backup or something. It is what it is. I think that there are no surprises there. So there's that. Moving over to the running backs, the big surprise really is how the Cowboys actually kept Hunter Luepke on the roster. So you have Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Luepke. And then you also do have Ronald Jones on that suspended list, which he'll come back after 2 games. And I'm really curious to see what the Cowboys do at that juncture when he does return. But this is exciting stuff. I'm happy for Deuce Vaughn. I'm happy for Hunter Luepke, especially considering coming into this team as an undrafted free agent. And if you've been following what we've done here and on Twitter or X, however you wish to call it at this point, we've talked about how Mike McCarthy likes to have the Swiss Army knife of running backs. And, you do have that in Tony Pollard being your main guy, Rico Dowdle being that other guy that can step in and do some things that Tony can do, Deuce Vaughn with some juice, and then Hunter Luepke showing what he could do in the final preseason game. There's a lot to be had in that running back room. I think that there really isn't a shock to me that Malik Davis was waived and he'll try to come back on the practice squad because, look, again, if you followed me, you would know that I've talked about if Rico Dowdle's healthy, he's making the team, and here we are. So, no shocks there. I'm going to just move on to the next, and that's wide receiver. And so, with wide receiver, you had a bunch of guys that were cut. So, to go over who made the team and compare, of course, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. then you go to Jalen Tolbert, and then Kevontae Turpin and Jalen Brooks. You're carrying 6 wide receivers here. And I think that there's no shocker here because anyone that's been following camp, again, if you follow the videos here and on other content creators, we've talked about how this wide receiver room was shaping up. Simi really wasn't doing a whole lot to really showcase himself as being a dude to stay on this roster. And so you look at the guys who didn't make the team. You have JMC. You have Dontario Drummond, Dennis Houston, Tyron Johnson, Jose Barbin, and Simi Fehoko all released. And I think if it were me, the only other dude that had a shot at being wide receiver 6 was JMC. And him and Jalen Brooks were going at it. And again, I'm happy that Jalen Brooks is on this team. But I'm a bit more comfortable with this wide receiver core because you go through the first 4 wide receivers and you feel okay with that. And I think the key thing here is a lot of people looked at what Jalen Tolbert did in this preseason and training camp, and it's like, all right, this dude's ready. But for me, I think that as long as Jalen Tolbert can produce as a wide receiver 4, which if you go back and look at how Cedric Wilson did, if it's like, you know, maybe 400 to 600 yards, 4 to 6 touchdowns, I'm okay with that. I think that we can live with a guy that's wide receiver 4 producing that, and that's really good for your offense if your wide receiver 4 is getting 500, 600 yards and over 6 touchdowns. So there's that. So no shockers there at the wide receiver spot. Then you move over to tight end, and again, it's the same group of guys, and I think where, if we were really being honest with ourselves, if John Stevens Jr. was healthy, I think he knocks off Peyton Hendershot. And with him being hurt, I think Peyton Hendershot survives another year, and we'll see how things go. You got Jake as your guy that's, you know, going to be that vertical threat. I think Luke Schoonmaker is going to be tight end 2, and then Peyton's going to be tight end 3. And, you know, you look at who didn't make the team at tight end. Sean McEwen, surprisingly, he didn't make the team. Seth Green and Princeton Fant. You know, a lot of people thought the Cowboys were going to hold 4 tight ends, and I think that you, as a team, deciding to keep Hunter Lipke on your roster, I think that's where Sean McEwen's spot went to. So I'm okay with that. I think that that's a solid group of guys, and it is what it is. Now, moving on to the offensive line, you have the following, and it's in no particular order of starting or whatever. TJ Bass, undrafted free agent who did a damn good job at showcasing what he can be. He's made the team. Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, Asim Richards, Tyler Smith, Tyron Smith, Terrence Steele, and Matt Waletzko. Now, Josh Ball went on to injured reserve, and you look at the guys that did not make the team, right? But here's the thing. Chuma Edoga is set to return. They're doing some mental gymnastics over there and just trying to get things taken care of for the roster. Then you look at Earl Bostic, Alex Taylor Prelio, Brock Hoffman, Matt Farniak, and Alec Lindstrom. I think for me, the thing that surprises me the most is that even with Chuma Edoga set to come back based off of what's been reported, there's no backup center on this roster. I was thinking that Matt Farniak would make the team because of his center flex. Nope, he's not on here. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen if things really go from bad to worse and Tyler Biadasz experiences something. What are you going to do? But, you know, hey, shout out to TJ Bass. Shout out to Asim Richards because I think you have options at that left side now. I think that if you really wanted to, you can play TJ Bass at left guard, or you could put TJ Bass at right guard in the event that Zach Martin goes down. But I think the only surprise for me is that they didn't keep a center guard, but we'll see how things progress from there. Moving over to the defensive line, Dorrance Armstrong, Fehoko Jr., or was it Viliami Fehoko? At this point, there's only one Fehoko on the roster. Dante Fowler, Neville Gallimore, Chauncey Goldstein, Jonathan Hankins, DeMarcus Lawrence, Osa Odigizua, Mozzie Smith, and Sam Williams. I think for me the biggest shock is Neville Gallimore made this team. I think that the fact of the matter is, and the reason why I had to, think about it at first, because I was like, wow, like he made the team after not really doing much. I think for me, one of the biggest reasons he made the team was because they need more guys at the 3-tech spot. When you look at a guy like Quentin Bahana that was having a fantastic preseason, I don't think he's he can do 3-tech. I think he's a 1-tech, but Mozzie Smith's going to primarily work there, and I think that that's where you're at. And, I mean, when you really think about it, maybe Chauncey Goldstein can flex in there. I think that Neville Gallimore is just a depth piece. But you look at who didn't make it on the defensive end side of things, or even defensive tackle. Of course, Isaac Alacorn, the guy who used the international program. If he wants to come back, he will no longer be able to be eligible through that. He would have to just go into the practice squad. Quinn Bahana, Darrell Johnson, and Ben Banogo. And, I mean, I'm looking at that, and I'm saying to myself, hey, realistically, the Dallas Cowboys for themselves, they have a nice room in that defensive line front. And it was so tough because you also had a guy in Isaiah Land, and shout out to my guy Jay Tuck, because he did, talk to me during a Twitter space saying, hey, I was trying to cheat, have him as a linebacker and call it a day, which I would, I'm cool with. But it sucks because I really thought he did enough to make the team. But I digress. I think that we'll see how things go from here. But that's an interesting bunch, to say the least. Moving over to the linebackers, you have Marquise Bell, Damone Clark, Devin Harper, Micah Parsons, and Leighton Vander Esch. DeMarvion Overshown, of course, he's on IR. You look at who didn't make this team. Tyrus Wheat, Isaiah Land, if you want to also throw him in the linebacker position. Jabril Cox. Man, that sucks. I really was hoping that guy can get things turned around, but evidently not. And Malik Jefferson, he is gone as well. So the Cowboys have gone pretty thin at linebacker. That's a bit surprising. And if they're going to use Micah Parsons as the edge guy and such, you're going to need to add another linebacker. Do they go get Deion Jones? Do you go get Rashaan Evans? Do you go elsewhere? They're going to have to do that, and I'm a bit worried here because I really would like a little bit more in that linebacker room, but, I don't know. I don't know how things are going to be employed. I don't know what Dan Quinn has cooked up, but I would really like another veteran in there to be a little bit more reassured. So now we move over to the defensive back room, and there were some surprises by the Cowboys. Of course, you have the basics, of course. Trevon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis, Eric Scott Jr., and Nahshon Wright. And then you had the player-for-player swap with the Miami Dolphins. You traded away Kelvin Joseph for the former first-round selection back in the 2020 NFL Draft, Noah Igbenogany. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to just refer to him as Iggy. We have Iggy and Izzy, because also in this defensive back room you have Malik Hooker, you have Israel Mukwamu, Jaron Kearse, Juanye Thomas. Congratulations to him making the roster, and Donovan Wilson. I think when you look at who did not make this team at the cornerback position, Josh Butler, I was like, maybe he'll make a push. CJ Goodwin is set to come back. He's more of a special teams ace, but he's set to come back there. But again, I really am shocked that Josh Butler didn't make it over guys like Nahshon Wright and such. But it is what it is. I think the Cowboys have it there. Tyler Coyle didn't make it. Celdrick Redwine didn't make it. And, I don't have much more to say. I think that it's, again, when you looked at this roster, it was so tough to cut down. And I think they did good there. Aside from Josh Butler, there really wasn't other surprises. Special teams, Brian Anger. Brandon Aubrey is going to be your week 1 starting kicker. And Trent Sieg, who was released, is going to be coming back. Again, roster maneuvering, long snapper. those are your Cowboys for 2023. Now, again, of course, things will change. We'll have injuries come up and such. But I'm telling you right now, I think that this Cowboys team is really good. I think that based off of what I'm looking at this 53-man roster, it's a bit thin at linebacker. I think that you could use a backup center. But otherwise, I think the Cowboys are more or less set. Now, what we're going to do is in the next video, I'm going to do some research. Might take a day or two. And we're going to go over the schedule as we're approaching the regular season. Talk about, hey, this is what I think the Cowboys will do. This is how the vibe of how I feel the season will go. And we'll call from there. So with that being said, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to hit a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.